started on stage. Big Mark was like, we want to do more scenes together.
Really taught us to be free. We were free on that set to just play.
The year is 1992. A young, loud, fearless comedian from Landover, Maryland, walks onto a Fox soundstage and starts building something that nobody, not the network, not the critics, not even him, fully understood yet. 5 seasons, 132 episodes, one of the most quoted, most rewatched, most beloved black sitcoms ever made. But here's what they never told you. Behind every laugh, behind every get to steppin', and every iconic Sheneneh wig, there was chaos. There were lawsuits. There were near-death experiences covered up by network executives. There were screaming matches, secret NDAs, deleted scenes so offensive they were literally locked in a vault, and a finale that happened not because the story was over, but because things got so dark behind those cameras that continuing was legally impossible. This is the Martin Show you never fully knew. Stay locked, because by secret number 10, you're going to question everything you thought you knew. And by number 1, the real reason Martin ended, you might need a minute. Let's get into it. Secret number 1. Every character Martin played was created to save money. Sheneneh Jenkins, Jerome, Otis, Dragonfly Jones, Bob from marketing. You thought these were born from pure creative genius? They were, but they were also born from one unavoidable reality. Fox was cheap. The show's budget was tight from day one. Every time a story pitch required outside talent, the network pushed back on costs. Martin got sick of hearing no, so he made a decision. If the show needs new characters, I'll play them myself.
Thank you for the question, Tyler. Martin Lawrence. I think he had a little bit of a stint in TV.
A scene needed a sassy beauty shop owner. Instead of casting someone, Martin threw on a dress, added a wig, and became Sheneneh. The audience lost their minds. It cost nothing extra. Executives encouraged more. Martin created Jerome, the player with the gold tooth. Otis, protecting that building with military precision. Dragonfly Jones, who couldn't fight but talked like a champion. Each character saved money. But here's the other truth. Martin didn't want to share his spotlight. Why hand a funny scene to a guest star when he could do it better himself? The result? Some of the most iconic characters in 90s television history. And Fox never had to write an extra check. Secret number 2. NBC, CBS, and ABC all said no. Before Fox picked up the phone, Martin Lawrence had been rejected by every major network in America. He pitched NBC a show about a Detroit DJ, his girlfriend, and the everyday chaos of black life and love. NBC said no. Too urban, too specific, wouldn't play in Middle America. CBS, too niche, too black. ABC didn't even take a full meeting. Martin was furious. He'd just watched Fresh Prince become a phenomenon and in living color dominate. The proof existed. The big three still didn't want him. Then Fox called. Not because they believed in the pitch, but because they were desperate. They saw demographics, not art. Young black audiences were tuning in and Martin could deliver them. They greenlit the show with a limited budget and rock-bottom expectations. Just another experiment. Cancel if it fails. Nobody in that room knew they were about to greenlight one of the defining cultural moments of the entire decade. Secret number 3. Tisha Campbell was the third choice for Gina. The woman who became Gina Waters, the backbone of that relationship, the chemistry that made the whole show electric, almost never got the role.
Actress Tisha Campbell now stars in a new series all about love, heartbreak, and getting back into the dating scene in your mid-40s.
The network wanted someone established with proven sitcom credits. They offered the role to 2 other actresses first. The first passed, didn't want to play girlfriend to an unknown comedian. The second tested with Martin, and there was absolutely nothing. No spark, no chemistry, just 2 people saying lines. Then Tisha Campbell walked in, musical theater training, little shop of horrors on her resume, but no sitcom experience. The network hesitated. Martin did too, until the chemistry read. Campbell didn't just read the lines, she improvised, pushed back, matched his energy, and raised it. She made his chaos funnier. Martin laughed genuinely during the audition. The network still hesitated. Martin didn't. He told them point blank, "If you want this show to work, you need someone who can stand up to me without wilting. Give her the job." Campbell got the role and became irreplaceable. But remember that moment, because it becomes deeply complicated later. Secret number 4. Tommy was never supposed to be a series regular. Thomas Ford, the permanently unemployed philosopher, was written as a throwaway character. One scene in the pilot, maybe a callback later. That was it. Ford auditioned, read his lines, and should have been done. But during rehearsals, when Martin improvised, and Martin always improvised, Ford's reactions were perfect, not forced, not trying too hard, just genuinely confused and quietly amused. He'd drop small A-sides that made the entire crew crack up. Martin went to producers immediately. Make Tommy a regular. The network pushed back on budget, but the pilot footage made the case. Ford brought balance. Cole was too goofy. Pam was too combative. Tommy was the everyman, the friend who showed up, quietly judged everything, and stayed loyal anyway. They rewrote the series around him. His permanent unemployment became a running joke never once explained and never needing to be. And it all started because his rehearsal reactions were too real to ignore. Secret number 5. The apartment set cost more than the entire pilot budget. Fox handed the production designers a number and said, "Stay inside it." Standard procedure would have given them beige walls, generic furniture, a forgettable backdrop. The designers had a different vision, the apartment as a character. Loud, colorful, architecturally nonsensical. Bold colors, strange angles, a layout no building inspector would approve. Fox said absolutely not. The set alone would cost more than the entire pilot episode's production budget. The designers didn't fold. They brought mock-ups, convinced Martin to fight alongside them, and wore the network down. Fox approved it with one condition: if this show fails, heads roll. That iconic purple wall went up, the strange pillar in the middle of the living room, the couch that became a cultural landmark. The pilot aired, audiences loved it, and Fox never complained about the cost again. Secret number 6. Damn Gina was never written by anyone. The most quoted 2 words in the show's entire run were never in a script. It happened during a season 1 rehearsal. Martin and Tisha were running a scene where Gina arrives looking stunning. The script had a generic compliment, instantly forgettable. But during the run-through, Martin looked at Tisha in her costume and it just came out. Damn Gina. Not planned, just a genuine reaction. The studio audience erupted. Producers stopped the rehearsal. Tisha broke character and laughed. Martin realized in real time he'd stumbled onto something. They kept it. Audiences didn't just react to it, they anticipated it. Martin started improvising it into scenes everywhere. Writers learned to leave space, knowing he'd find the moment. Tisha had complicated feelings. She loved the response, but sometimes felt reduced to simply being the woman Martin said damn about. Still, she understood it was bigger than both of them. The phrase entered Black America's cultural vocabulary and never left, all because Martin Lawrence couldn't help himself during one afternoon rehearsal. Secret number 7. Garrett Morris was hired to keep Martin in check. Fox was genuinely afraid of Martin Lawrence, 27 years old, 0 sitcom experience, unpredictable. The network wasn't confident he could handle the weekly pressure without imploding, so they made a demand: cast an older, established black actor to balance the chaos. Garrett Morris came in for the role of Stan Winters, original SNL cast member, decades of professional credibility, real authority. But Morris understood what he was actually being hired to do.
And that includes a New Orleans native. Garrett Morris appeared on SNL from 1975 to 1980.
He wasn't just playing a cranky neighbor, he was there to mentor. When Martin wanted to improvise entire scenes into oblivion, Morris suggested structure. When Martin showed up late or unfocused, Morris pulled him aside like a father talking to a son. He never publicly criticized. He never went to producers with complaints. He just quietly guided. Morris was the bridge between Martin's raw talent and the demands of professional television. He did it with patience and genuine care for 5 full seasons. Secret number 8. The studio audience turned every taping into a near riot. Most sitcoms have studio audiences. Martin had events. From the very first taping, production had a serious problem. The audience wasn't just laughing, they were screaming, dancing, rushing toward the stage. Tapings felt like concerts, like church, like parties where participation was expected. Production stopped constantly because crowd noise drowned out dialogue. Martin would deliver a punchline, and the room would erupt for 30 solid seconds, making scenes unusable. Security became a major budget item. During Sheneneh scenes, Audience members physically tried to rush the stage. Some episodes took twice the scheduled time to film. Network executives watched the cost overruns and panicked. Martin loved every second of it. He fed off the energy, encouraged it, broke character between takes to interact with the crowd. The warm-up comedian had the hardest job in television. He wasn't warming people up. He was trying to contain an explosion. Martin's studio audience became legendary in Hollywood because what happened in that room wasn't filming a sitcom. It was a weekly party that happened to have cameras rolling. Secret number 9. Fox censored over 50 episodes for syndication. The Martin you watched after school? That was not the real Martin. The version that aired on Fox during prime time was significantly different from what ended up in syndication. Fox censored heavily for daytime reruns. Over 50 episodes were edited, some losing entire storylines. The original broadcasts pushed limits constantly. Sexual innuendo, adult situations, jokes about subjects other sitcoms treated as untouchable. When the show moved into daytime syndication, the rules changed. Entire Sheneneh scenes were cut. Jerome's player persona was softened or removed. Some episodes lost up to 5 full minutes of content, replaced with extended establishing shots just to fill the time. Fans who grew up watching reruns have no idea what those original episodes actually contained. The uncut versions exist in Fox's archives and have never been released on streaming. The Martin most people know is a defanged copy of something that was once much wilder, much sharper, and far more honest. Secret number 10. A heat exhaustion collapse. Nearly killed Martin, and Fox covered it up. Stop here, because this one is serious. In August 1996, during Season 5 filming, Martin Lawrence collapsed on set. Fox's official statement said exhaustion. Nothing alarming. That was not the full story. Martin had been running at an unsustainable pace for months, filming the series while shooting movies during hiatus, doing his own stunts, wearing heavy costumes under hot studio lights. The day it happened, he was filming a Sheneneh scene. Full costume, wig, makeup, and padding. Hours of shooting without adequate hydration. His body temperature climbed dangerously. He collapsed mid-scene. The crew thought he was doing a bit. Then he didn't get up. Paramedics found his temperature critically high, his heart rate erratic. Doctors told him privately that he had come very close to dying. Another 30 minutes without treatment could have changed everything. He was hospitalized for 3 days. Fox said nothing life-threatening. Production shut down for 2 weeks. Mandatory breaks and cooling systems were finally added. Cast members said he came back different, quieter, more withdrawn, like the collapse had shown him something about his own limits that couldn't be unseen. Secret number 11. Pam was almost written out after Season 1. Tichina Arnold's Pam James was nearly erased before anyone realized what they had. Network executives watched the pilot and couldn't figure out Pam's purpose.
Tichina Arnold was born on June 28, 1969, in Queens, New York.
She was antagonistic, constantly picking fights with Martin. They didn't understand that the shade comes from love, that the roasting is the relationship. To them, she was just an angry woman with no storyline. After Season 1, they told producers to write her out. Martin fought back harder than he'd fought for almost anything else on the show. He told executives directly, Pam is the truth teller, the one person who can check Martin without consequences. Without her, the show is flat. He threatened to quit if they fired Arnold. Fox backed down. Arnold came back in Season 2 and built Pam into something irreplaceable, finding the vulnerability beneath the shade, making audiences understand she wasn't mean. She was fiercely protective and usually right. By Season 3, the character was untouchable. Arnold never forgot that Martin saved her job. Secret number 12. 3 stuntmen were hospitalized, filming the boxing episode. The episode where Martin faces boxer Tommy Hearns should have been straightforward. Choreographed punches, camera tricks, trained doubles for anything dangerous. Martin had other ideas. He wanted it real, insisted on actual contact. The stunt coordinator objected. Martin didn't care. Day 1 went fine. Day 2, things went wrong. Martin took a hard shot to the ribs and waved off medical attention. A stuntman went down with a dislocated shoulder. They resumed. A second stuntman needed stitches above his eye. By day 3, 3 stuntmen had been hospitalized. The insurance company got involved. The episode was delayed 2 weeks. When it aired, the boxing looked completely authentic because it was. The exhaustion and pain were real, and everyone involved paid a price for Martin's commitment to getting it right. Secret number 13. The writer's room was a revolving door, and Martin was the reason. Talented comedy writers would sign on to Martin with genuine excitement. Then they'd experience reality. They'd spend weeks crafting scripts until every line was sharp, and Martin would glance at the finished product and essentially set it aside. He'd keep the basic premise, maybe a few plot points, then improvise the rest during filming. Writers sat in Video Village watching their dialogue replaced in real time. Here's the infuriating part. Martin's version was usually funnier. His instincts were sharp, his timing precise, but that didn't make it less demoralizing. Multiple writers quit within their first season. The ones who survived had to redefine their role, write the framework, let Martin build the house. The numbers proved him right every time. Heavily improvised episodes consistently rated higher than ones that stayed close to script. Secret number 14. Cole was based on a real person from Martin's childhood. Cole Brown wasn't invented in a writer's room. Martin grew up with someone just like him in Maryland, a kid everyone underestimated who said things that sounded ridiculous until you thought about them long enough. Martin told stories about this person during stand-up for years. The impressions always killed. Carl Anthony Payne II auditioned without knowing any of this. He just played Cole as genuinely confused but deeply well-meaning.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't. Hey, Rhonda! I got $13!
After getting the part, Martin sat him down and explained the real backstory, how this person would say something that made everyone laugh, and hours later, you'd realize he'd made an actual point, how he survived by being underestimated. Payne built Cole into something with real depth from those stories. Yes, Cole said stupid things, but he was loyal, kind, and occasionally, when nobody expected it, surprisingly insightful. People rooted for him because Payne played him with such sincerity that you felt the love beneath every bewildered expression. Secret number 15. The conflict between Martin and Tisha started in Season 2. Everyone knows the public story. Martin and Tisha's relationship collapsed in Season 5, but people close to the production tell a different timeline. The tension started in Season 2, visible to everyone on set. At first it was creative differences. Martin would improvise mid-take, change blocking, rewrite dialogue on the fly. Tisha, trained in theater and built for structure, found it disrespectful. She asked him to stick to the script. He told her to trust him. She felt disrespected. He felt controlled. By Season 3, they were barely speaking off camera, communicating through assistants. The genuine chemistry that made Gina and Martin feel real in Season 1 started requiring acting rather than happening naturally. By Season 4, separate dressing rooms on opposite ends of the building. The cast tried to mediate. Nobody could reverse the accumulated damage. By the time Season 5 began, everyone on that set could see it was the final chapter. Secret number 16. Fox tried to fire Martin multiple times. By conventional professional standards, Martin Lawrence was a nightmare employee. He showed up late, sometimes hours after call time. He fought with producers, ignored notes, rewrote scripts without permission. He created set tension. He suffered a medical collapse. He got permanently banned from Saturday Night Live. His personal life kept making headlines. Fox executives held regular meetings about cutting their losses, but every time they got close, they looked at the ratings. Martin consistently ranked top 10. Thursday nights belonged to him. Internal memos, later leaked, showed executives calling Martin unprofessional, unreliable, a liability. But every complaint ended the same way. The ratings justify continued production. Martin knew exactly how much his success protected him. He tested that boundary constantly. Fox absorbed the chaos and cashed the checks, because in television, strong ratings can forgive almost anything, at least until they can't. Secret number 17. Fox executives never actually understood why the show worked. Here is one of the strangest dynamics in the show's entire history. The executives who controlled Martin didn't get it. They'd sit in screening rooms watching episodes and not laugh at jokes their black employees found absolutely hilarious. The cultural references went over their heads. The slang was foreign to them. To the white executives running Fox, It was just a show about loud people arguing in an apartment. They'd run focus groups, bring in consultants, and still couldn't explain on a gut level why it resonated. So they'd give notes that made no sense, suggest changes that would have destroyed the humor. Martin and his producers learned to nod, agree, and then ignore everything completely. Because Fox didn't understand it, they couldn't effectively interfere. Martin Lawrence had more real creative freedom than most established showrunners, because the people with power over his show didn't know enough to micromanage it. Sometimes, ignorance really does create freedom. Secret number 18, You So Crazy, got Martin permanently banned from SNL. In 1994, HBO gave Martin complete creative freedom for a stand-up special. He called it You So Crazy and delivered 90 minutes of the most explicit, unfiltered comedy he'd ever performed publicly. It became legendary. But it came with a cost Martin didn't see coming. NBC had been quietly in talks about a Saturday Night Live hosting gig. Perfect fit, hot comedian, hit show, ideal demographics. Then NBC executives watched You So Crazy. Emergency meetings, the language, the content, the absolute refusal to filter anything. It was everything broadcast television couldn't survive. The decision came from the top. Martin Lawrence was permanently banned from hosting SNL. Not temporarily, permanently. Martin was furious. He was also, by his own account, proud. He would rather be himself and get banned than water down his material for network approval. To this day, Martin has never hosted SNL, and he'll tell you himself he's completely fine with that. Secret number 19. Season 5 was filmed with the two leads, never in the same room. By January 1997, Tisha Campbell had filed a formal lawsuit against Martin Lawrence and HBO Independent Productions.
Well, Tisha Campbell is responding to Martin Lawrence's remarks about the past sexual harassment suit.
The allegations completely changed the logistics of making the show. Campbell refused to work with Martin, would not be in the same room with him, would not film scenes with him present. Fox had contracts in place. Canceling would cost millions. So production filmed Martin and Gina's scenes on completely separate days. When the characters needed to appear together, they used stand-ins, body doubles, and strategic camera angles, over-the-shoulder shots, split screens, phone conversations through closed doors. The editing team worked overtime to create the illusion of togetherness from footage shot days apart. Some episodes barely featured Gina at all. Fans watching at home could sense something was wrong. The show felt flatter, like it was going through motions it no longer believed in. Nobody outside production knew exactly why, but they were about to find out. Secret number 20. The writing staff built an entire season without knowing the full truth. Here's what makes Season 5 even more extraordinary in retrospect. The writers were crafting storylines between two people who would never actually share the same space, without being told the full legal reason why. Most of the writing staff only knew that scheduling was complicated. The lawsuit, the specific allegations, that information was kept tightly inside upper management. Writers were engineering romantic scenes, arguments, reconciliations between Martin and Gina, knowing only that for some unstated reason, the two leads couldn't be physically present at the same time. It is one of the most quietly remarkable feats of creative problem-solving in sitcom history. Secret number 21. The show created a cultural language Fox never understood. Martin wasn't just a sitcom, it was a linguistics event. Get to steppin. You go, boy. What's up, what's up, what's up?
Hey, what's happening? What's up? What you doing here, man? My damn job.
The specific cadences and catchphrases the show produced entered Black American speech patterns and never left. They spread across schools, barbershops, and church parking lots, and eventually into conversations between people who had never watched a single episode. Fox monitored the ratings. They had no framework for measuring this. You can't put a number on how deep into the culture a show has gone until decades later, when you realize people are still quoting it in daily conversation 30 years after it ended. Martin did that. Fox collected the revenue without ever grasping what they were actually sitting on. Secret number 22. There was a deleted scene Fox locked in a vault. This one requires a full stop. During the show's run, at least one scene was filmed, reviewed, and physically removed from any possible distribution. Not cut for time, not edited for content, but locked away completely. The specific content has never been officially confirmed. People who were on set during those years have alluded to it in interviews before catching themselves and going silent. The consistent description, a scene so far outside what could ever air, on any platform, in any format, before any audience, that the decision to vault it was unanimous and immediate. Fox has never acknowledged it publicly. Nobody involved has spoken about it on record. What was in it may never have a public answer. What we know is that the show went places television wasn't ready for. And apparently, even by Martin's own standards, there was a line that got crossed completely, at least once. Secret number 23. Pam and Cole were never supposed to have chemistry. One of the show's most consistently entertaining running threads, the bizarre tension between Cole and Pam, happened entirely by accident. Tisha Arnold and Carl Anthony Payne II had genuine comedic chemistry that nobody planned for or scripted. During early rehearsals, their scenes together produced reactions that surprised everyone in the room. Writers started noticing. Producers started building around it. What emerged was one of the show's great unplanned gifts. Pam couldn't stand Cole. Cole had feelings for Pam expressed in the most bewildering ways imaginable, and the audience loved it precisely because it made no logical sense and felt completely true. This is what Martin did better than almost any sitcom of its era. It let real chemistry between real people reshape the writing, rather than forcing actors to serve a fixed vision. Cole and Pam became their own reason to tune in, and they got there entirely by accident. Secret number 24. The show was nearly canceled, 3 separate times. The Martin that aired was never safe, not once. After the pilot, executives considered it a failed experiment before word of mouth started moving the numbers. In Season 3, during peak behind-the-scenes turbulence, Fox quietly explored options for an early exit. The cast didn't know. The audience definitely didn't. In Season 4, as the tension between Martin and Tisha became harder to hide and more expensive to manage, cancellation was on the table again. Each time the audience saved it, by showing up loyally Thursday after Thursday, by making the ratings too strong to justify pulling the plug. The people watching had no idea they were doing this. They just knew they couldn't miss Martin, and every week they watched, they were quietly keeping the show alive. Secret number 25. The show's fashion impact was never officially credited. Before social media could track cultural influence with data, Martin was reshaping how young Black America dressed. Sheneneh's look became a costume staple immediately, not just for Halloween, but as a reference point for what bold, fearless style looked like. Jerome's gold tooth and player aesthetic entered the wider vocabulary. The oversized, colorful, unapologetically vivid style of the show influenced streetwear and shaped what an entire generation considered cool. The fashion industry has never formally credited Martin with the influence it deserves, but anyone who grew up watching the show in the 90s knows exactly what they were responding to, and can still feel it in what they reach for today. Secret number 26. Martin had more creative control than almost anyone at Fox. Here is the central irony of the show's entire run. Martin Lawrence, the man executives called unprofessional and unreliable in leaked internal memos, had more genuine creative control over his show than almost any showrunner in Fox's lineup. Because Fox didn't understand what made the show work, they couldn't effectively interfere. Because Martin's ratings were untouchable, they couldn't threaten him without threatening their own revenue. Because the cultural world the show operated in was largely invisible to the executives overseeing it, Martin was free to make the show he actually wanted to make. He built the universe. He created the characters. He rewrote the scripts. He fought for the cast. He protected the tone. For 5 seasons, Martin Lawrence ran his own show on a network that controlled it on paper and barely touched it in practice. That's almost unheard of, and it produced something that has outlasted every executive who doubted it. Secret number 27. The real reason the show ended is buried in legal documents. The official version of why Martin ended is tidy: scheduling conflicts, cast changes, a natural conclusion after 5 successful seasons. That is not the complete story. Tisha Campbell's lawsuit included detailed allegations about ongoing on-set behavior, a hostile work environment, and specific incidents that made continuation legally and practically impossible. The settlement was confidential, sealed with ND as that still exists. Fox paid Campbell a significant sum. Insurance companies also settled claims, with their own confidentiality requirements attached. The result is an extraordinarily large number of people, cast, crew, executives, legal representatives, who signed documents committing them to permanent silence. Occasionally, someone who was there will begin to say something in an interview. You can watch them start, you can watch them stop, then they say something careful and move on. The truth of what ended Martin lives in sealed court documents and in memories that cannot legally be spoken aloud. Secret number 28. The show was never really finished. It was interrupted. Here is the final truth, and it is the heaviest one. Martin didn't end. It was interrupted. The show wasn't concluded because the story ran its course. It was interrupted by legal conflict that made continuation impossible, by personal betrayals that couldn't be repaired, by a toxic environment that had been building for years and finally broke through the surface in a way that no production ingenuity or network money could fix. The characters didn't get endings. They just stopped appearing. Martin and Gina never got a real finale. The show ended mid-thought, like a conversation cut off by something that couldn't wait. That is why, 3 decades later, people still talk about Martin with an ache that goes beyond nostalgia. We miss the show, but we also sense, even without knowing the specifics, that something was taken from us before it was finished. The laughter was real. The love was real. The culture it created is still alive, still quoted somewhere in this world every single day. But the ending? There wasn't one. There was just a door that closed, and a lot of people who signed papers agreeing never to explain why. 28 secrets, 1 show, 5 seasons, and a legacy that no lawsuit, no NDA, and no Fox executive who never understood a single joke could take away. Martin Lawrence built something that belonged to the people who watched it, and it still does. Now, which of these 28 secrets hit you the hardest? Was it the near-death collapse they covered up? The season filmed with the 2 leads never in the same room? The fact that Damn Gina was never once written down? Drop it in the comments. Tag someone who grew up watching this show, because some stories are too important to stay buried. Get to steppin'. See you in the next one.